What's that like? What's going on, people? Hey, it's another edition of the What's That Like podcast, and I'm your host, Johnny Knowles. Thanks again for tuning in. Got another exciting episode for you. Got some folks here that have been on a reality TV show, and we'll get to that just in a second. But before I do, I want to really thank each and every one of you for listening in each and every week and for leaving us reviews. We got our most recent review on iTunes. I want to thank Captain Caruso for that. I think Captain is a captain in the St. Louis PD. I really appreciate everything those boys in blue do, and all you folks out there that are in the law enforcement or first responders or whatever it is. God knows our hearts go out to you. Thanks to each and every one of you. And if I can give you a little bit of joy while you're out there on your patrol or on your duty and doing what you're doing, I really appreciate the fact that you give me a little time, and hopefully it brings a little joy to you. So thanks, Captain. Appreciate the review that you gave me. It's July the 4th week. If you're listening to this on post day, on July the 4th, there's a big summer concert series event that's going on in Hillsboro, followed by fireworks right out there at the Hillsboro Lake. We went last year. Great time. They've got a great St. Louis band, Revolution. Get out there and check those guys out on on Wednesday night. I think the concert starts at 6, fireworks at 9, right as it gets dark, and the concert will be over. It's a great time. If you're in Hillsboro on Saturday night, come see Johnny's band here, Retro Rocket. Retro Rocket will be appearing there on the square, just back off the square at a place called Lemos, and we'll be celebrating there, and we've got a nice show that we've got planned, so follow Retro Rocket on Facebook. We really appreciate that, and come out to the show this Saturday, 7/7, Hillsboro, Illinois. It's a great place. Beer's cold, weather be hot, tunes be rocking. We really appreciate all of our fans there, too. Okay, let's get to this week's guest, Jordan and Dawn Kettler. Now, Jordan and Dawn Kettler, I've known Dawn for a long time. Actually, Dawn grew up about a block from where my wife's parents live and where my wife grew up, too. So, Dawn married this fella, nice guy, great guy, Jordan Kettler. And over the last 3 years, they've appeared 2 times on the show House Hunters. And I know everybody must watch this show. It seems like it's on constant loop in my house. It's just like background. It's always on. And if you've ever watched a show, you know, it's like they got to go and they got to find their house, their dream home, and they got to pick between 3. And which one are they going to pick? Well, we're going to find out how that whole show works. We're going to find out about their schedule that they have to go through. Are they paid? And some of the other secrets of the show, and probably a lot of things you just don't realize that goes into putting one of these shows on, and really how it works. So I want to thank our guests once again for coming on. They were great, Jordan and Dawn Kettler. And let's get right to it, because I'm going to ask them, man, you were on House Hunters. What's that like? So I'm here with Jordan and Dawn Kettler. Jordan and Dawn, you guys were on House Hunters. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about yourselves.
So I grew up in Mount Olive my whole life and went away to Rock Island and Augustana College there. That's actually where I met Jordan. And from there, I moved and lived in Florida for about a year and a half, just probably shy of 2 years. And then moved out to St. Louis and then to the Collinsville area, and somehow I still ended up back here in Mount Olive.
There you go. It seems to happen.
Mm-hmm.
You got sucked back.
Uh-huh.
You went to Florida because you worked where?
I worked at Busch Gardens in Tampa, and I was a camp counselor there, and then I turned into a zookeeper.
There you go. It can happen, kiddies. You can follow awesome. Your dream. Yeah. Jordan, tell me about you. Where'd you grow up?
I was born and raised in Dixon, Illinois. Lived there right up till college and went to Rock Island there where Dawn and I met at Augustana, like she said. And then I kind of just traveled around and didn't really have a home because I worked on the road. So wherever Dawn was traveling, that's where I would stop in and be for a couple of weeks. And then, like she said, we made it around the way and came back to her hometown, and we've kind of been here ever since and really enjoy it.
What do you do?
I'm right now a steam and gas turbine engineer, so like a mechanical engineer, project engineer. So That's about it.
Yeah, I remember I watched your show for some homework, and you kind of told that story on the show, Dawn, where you said, "Oh, we met in class in college," and your response in the show, Jordan, was, "Yep."
Yep.
I thought that's succinct. I like that. But so you guys like to have fun. I've known you for a while as a couple. We hang out in some of the same places, and this is really one of the things when you guys appeared on the show. A couple of it's been about 5-6 months now. It was the spring of 18.
Yeah, since it aired. So I think it aired in May.
I think it was May.
Yeah. And I remember going, well, that's someone we have to have on the show and find out what it's like to be on House Hunter. So this is why you're here today. So Dixon, Illinois, back to that. Isn't that famous for something?
So Dixon, Illinois is the boyhood home of Ronald Reagan.
Bingo.
And also Rita Crundwell, if you follow crime. She stole 53 point some odd $1 million from our city's coffers over like 20 years. So and there's actually a documentary coming out. I think it's all the Queen's Horses, I believe. It's on Netflix sometime in July.
She had a lot of quarter horses.
She was a world-renowned quarter horse breeder.
And this is where all the money went?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
She had like a $2 million RV. And
how do they miss $53 million? It's not that big of a town, is it?
Well, it's small town, handshake. Deals are made on handshakes over coffee, and she kind of had an account in the sewer department's name as the story goes, and she only had access to it, and everyone just kind of trusted her.
There you go. Dixon, Illinois, famous for two things now.
Famous and infamous. Yeah.
Famous. That's a good way to put it. So let's get back to House Hunters. You were on the show just this past May, but your story with House Hunters doesn't start in 2018.
So we were on it the first time in 2014. I don't know why, but I got online and I applied for it. And the first round of the application is very much your basic information, name, age, where you live. He was traveling at the time, and I told him, I was like, I applied for House Hunters. He's like, you would. And for people who know me, my parents and him, I have a lot of dumb luck. I can't go to the casino or get a lottery ticket and win, but I have a lot of dumb luck. So the next week I get a call, and it's the lady. And so the company, it's actually called Pie Town Productions that runs House Hunters. And there was a lady there that's in charge of the interviewing process. And so she really liked that we had deadlines. That was exciting for the show, and those were real deadlines. We had...
I was traveling at the time, so I would be home for the summer. So we were trying to find something in the summertime before I had to leave for work again.
Yeah, so the summertime, my lease was up. My lease was coming up in about 2 months. We were getting married that fall as well.
That's a big deadline.
Yeah, so we had a couple of deadlines we wanted to figure out, and
they liked having birds in the house.
And then
they thought that was weird.
The big thing was that I had pet birds. We have pet birds, but they're mine.
They're yours. You can have them.
And I worked at Grant's Farm at the time, and so they also ask you your occupations and what you do. And the fact that I was doing animal shows was like, oh, this is really cool. So then the next step was we had to submit a 10-minute video, and it was a really simple interview video. They give you the layout of what they want you to answer in it, and they pretty much want to make sure that the significant other is also on board, because they do have a lot of women who submit applications, and then they get the husband on there, and he's just like, yes, and because he doesn't want to do it.
Jordan, you're raising your hand at the moment.
He really wasn't like. I mean, he's not like that even.
But it did take us about 6 hours for a 10-minute video.
Yeah, it took us a long time. Jordan gets a little nervous. He did great the second time, but the first time around, he said some weird things.
Well, that's the difference. You're working in front of people all the time.
And that's the difference.
And you're comfortable with that. And Jordan, that's just not what you did.
Yeah, that wasn't me.
No.
It worked out. I had fun, but yeah, it was an adjustment for sure.
Well, I mean, I understand what you mean. I mean, I do this for the podcast, but it's like the skill set comes from what you do every day. You're used to speaking in front of people and things like that. And I hope that this, when you're in here, Jordan, it's just a conversation. We just happen to have headphones on.
Oh, yeah. No, this is totally normal.
Yeah. So anyway, so you got on the show in 2014 and you auditioned. So you said there was a 10-minute video. What's the time frame between you auditioning and then all of a sudden, hey, they're calling you, and what happens?
So this might be different for other people, but the lady who I had to send our video to, I mean, pretty much told me after I sent it, she's like, this is awesome. She's like, I can't speak for the board, but I'm pretty sure you're going to get on the show. So I probably got the final word probably maybe a week to 2 weeks after. Like, it's very fast.
About 2 weeks, yeah.
Yeah. And we were up visiting your family when they called me for the video part, and So then she told us we're going to be on it, and then right away you're scheduling potential dates to get started.
Once you get accepted, or once they accept it, say, yeah, you're going to be on, then it kind of varies based on your availability, their availability, what their episode requirements are when it comes to the filming time frame of it.
Because they give you release forms that, they want to shoot at your place of work if possible. And so they kind of give you, hey, here's this stuff. I need you guys to sign the waiver
waivers,
that we're saying okay to this. Fill that paperwork out first. And then you schedule, it's a five days of filming.
5 days.
5 days of, we're 8 to
10
5,
hours.
8 to 10 hours. Yeah. And that's what's crazy for 5 days of filming. Really, what's actually we're on the show is what maybe
there's 22 minutes of the show,
minutes, yeah.
and of the 22 minutes, I think they said 8 or 9 minutes of us talking of our actual dialogue.
Really?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it's crazy that you're doing that much, and they usually split it up in sections. Either do 2 days of filming, they fly out and do something else, and then come back and do 3 days of filming to kind of do that after scene, where they're like, oh, here are they now. Or you can do 3 days first and then 2 days later on. But it is split up, so it's not 5 consecutive days.
All right. So this was back in 2014 when you first got on.
Yes.
And that house was in
Collinsville.
Okay. And so you were living there for the last 3-4 years, right?
When we filmed?
Yeah.
No. We had just bought the house when we were accepted. And we had everything was in the garage. Mm-hmm. Dawn had lived with her parents for about 2 weeks between the time her lease was up and getting into the house. And we had to make it look like nobody lived there.
Okay, so now we're getting into the real secret of the show.
So you're getting into the secret. So ideally, they want you to be under contract because a lot of times the previous owner's stuff is still in there. And then it's a much more dramatic, like, oh, here are they now. And obviously, it's very different. Ours was empty, and that's actually secret. If you really want to know a lot of times which house they choose, a lot of times the houses are empty that they choose because it's potentially bought already. And they have the stuff stored in the garage like we did. Okay. So that's how come they never go into the garage for our show, is because that's where all our stuff was.
So you had it under contract. Your stuff was in the garage. Mm-hmm. You filmed it as if you'd never seen it before.
Correct.
Yep.
So you kind of go through the whole motions of what you felt the first time you looked at it with your realtor.
Right.
And that's what, a lot of people are like, well, it's so fake. It's not that it's fake. It's that you are just reenacting what you already did.
It's a reenactment. Yeah. It's a recreation.
And a lot of people are like, well, I don't understand why they do that. It's like, well, some people take years to find a house. They can't follow a film crew.
Yeah.
That's not realistic. So it's more of a reenactment of how your feelings as you go through.
So the point of the show, and I think if you're listening to this, you've probably seen the show. It's which of the 3 houses you're going to pick. Mm-hmm. Do you just see 3 houses?
Yes.
Okay. So you're going to go to 3 houses. It's the one that you've got under contract, kind of the secret. Mm-hmm. And then it's 2 others that they've picked out for you to just kind of go, that might fit what you're looking for.
So when you do your interview process, you have to have a style, whether or not it's true or not. Like, we didn't really have a style. We were just looking at a home that we thought was good for us, but that you have to have a style for the show.
They want you to have definitions. They have definitions laid out, and they want to put you in a box so that they can itemize exactly what you're looking at.
I gotcha.
So Jordan was a ranch style. Mine was,
I don't know, colonial or something. They want you to be kind of conflicting.
Yes,
for
they want you to be conflicting. Yeah. So that going in, so they try to do one that kind of is his, one that's a kind of a hers, and then maybe one that kind of does meet maybe both, but might lean towards one or the other.
Or doesn't hit any of them.
Or doesn't hit any of them. And so that's kind of how that part worked.
Okay, so you pick the house, you move in, and you're there for 2 or 3 years, and then you decide, Dawn, you want to move back closer to home. How did you get back on the show?
Actually, I am still friends with the director that did our first episode.
Oh, yeah?
Mm-hmm. So I was posting that we were moving, and she private messaged me on Facebook and said, hey, you guys should do another episode. And I was like, is that allowed? And she's like, yeah, it's been plenty of time since then.
Yeah.
They wanted us to do the Where Are They Now in the Collinsville house.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
But we're young kids. We couldn't remodel the entire house.
You have to do actual remodeling, not just cosmetic changes. Yeah. And it's like, sorry, we aren't.
You got to knock down a wall, not repaint it.
Right.
That kind
and
of
we
stuff.
could have been by the time we were ready to sell. We had really done some big renovations. But, at that point, now we're going to be back on it for moving again. Yeah, so she's just like, just send your kind of updated information in. Did we have to do another 10-minute video?
No.
I don't think we had to do another 10 minutes.
Well, they knew what they were getting.
That's what I'm saying. They already
Yeah.
knew what they were getting. So
Yeah.
I think I just had to submit the basic information of what we were doing now. The second time through was a little bit, probably not as much as along the guidelines of what it was our first house. When we bought this house, we did not go through a realtor. The realtor that you see was helping us actually just sell our old house.
Yeah.
So that was kind of tricked a little bit. We didn't look at any other houses because we weren't planning on moving.
We weren't in the market for a new house when we bought this house.
Yeah.
So that was another thing that realtor had to like try and find houses that matched. And if you saw that episode, you can see that like there isn't any in this area. And that's why we hadn't moved before, because we wanted property.
Right.
And so she had to, we went all the way out to Belleville to try to find something that would work.
Where I got a flat tire and our
Yeah.
director had to give us a
gosh.
ride home. And I was on the phone till 2 a.m. having a number of tow truck drivers not be able to change a tire and tow the truck to a shop.
Yeah, it was interesting to say the least.
So the house that you did buy, essentially, it was the first time I'd ever watched the show and went, I know which one they're buying.
Yeah.
Because I know you guys and I know which house you bought. I've actually been to that house before for some other reasons, but essentially it looks like it didn't on the show meet kind of all the criteria you were looking for. So you're saying a lot of that back and forth on the show is a little bit of dramatic effect.
So it's not so much that, is that they don't want you changing your mind as you're looking at the houses. So if you went filled out and you're like, this is the style house I want, they don't want you to all of a sudden be like, I wanted this, but
I could deal with that.
I could deal with that. They're like, no, you can't be so like, forgiving in those regards of your wish list, because that was a problem we had. We had to keep reshooting because we'd be like, yeah, I mean, it really is okay. They're like, no, you can't be so like easygoing with them.
Well, we had kind of forgot what our parameters were when we started filming too. So we would go to a house that actually was a pretty nice house, and it's like, well, this is a pretty nice place. I could be okay with this. And they're like, no, you don't want this. Remember, like, this is what you didn't want, and this has all those things. So you hate this house. Oh yeah, okay. Let's go ahead and do that again then.
So in any of the other houses that you looked at both times, did you kind of go through one of the other houses and just be thinking, man, I wish I would have bought that house instead?
I think there was one that I liked the first
time around. Well, they were kind of nice, but our realtor was like, I tried not to get other houses that were too nice, that you guys wouldn't feel bad about what you bought. But the other houses weren't actually ever on our list of potential houses.
Yeah.
But that's not the same for other people necessarily. The only reasons ours were not other ones that we looked at was because they were already under contract. They'd already gone, so then we couldn't get into them anymore.
So it wasn't even a possibility.
Right.
Yes,
is what you're
but they
saying.
do try to make it look at other houses you may have already, that were real considerations for you. But if not, they might get a relative's house to use, as like, well, we need a house to kind of fill in here. So they might be like, let's look through this house and pretend you might be moving into it.
There was one house that we liked though, and it was really nice. It was kind of in a subdivision, which we weren't really excited about. But I think the biggest drawback to it was that the yard was at like a 45-degree side slope. And so we looked at that and we're like, oh, okay, well, we're good not buying this house or not being interested in this house.
But in the camera,
you
couldn't tell that.
Oh, really?
We talked about it being on a hill, but people are like, that's like nothing. And it's like, no, it actually was, but just the angles and the way it portrayed on the video.
All the houses in general look really good on camera.
Yes, and they tell you that. They're like, don't worry about little things like the camera makes the houses look really good,
Yeah.
whether or not they are.
So both times you guys were on, then your pet family, I guess is the best way to say that, was a big driving factor in the house that you were going to choose.
Right.
Which is probably a little bit different than most of the episodes. I don't watch it all the time. My wife does. I'll pop in. It just seems like everybody's always, everybody's always entertaining on that show. I guess if you're on that show, you must be entertaining all the time.
Well,
Lots of friends. Yeah.
well, it is the longest running reality TV show behind Cops.
Really? But it seems like to me, everybody's got to have that entertainment space. Somebody wants the, I got to have room for my gym equipment, that kind of stuff. You guys were refreshing to me, regardless that I knew you or not. It's that you had a different need. You didn't want the open floor plan. You want a closed floor plan so you can close everything off. And Jordan, you just wanted a workshop.
Yeah.
And that, to me, it's like, all right, there's a guy I can relate to.
I just needed a man space to get away from the pet family for a bit.
There you go.
They're the leading kind of forefront of why people design houses. They're the reason everybody's like, oh, granite countertops, stainless steel appliances.
Oh, I believe that.
And that was another thing that was appeal to us, is that wasn't, I wanted to update it. We wanted to be a live-in, to be able to live in and not do remodeling right away. But we didn't care about, hey, all the high-end stuff right away. I mean, we could not afford it. So.
You can build into that.
Yes.
Yeah, we didn't care. That was very material things that we knew, just like the paint, the color of the walls. And you can always paint the walls. Nobody cares about that stuff.
But that's what...
We were the same way with the appliances.
Yeah,
we just didn't care.
And that's the other reason they really liked us, because they were trying to start getting away from that, because the shows were getting boring. Because people wanted the same thing every episode.
Right.
It was their real wish list, but it's kind of like, oh... Look what we did to ourselves.
They literally painted themselves into the corner, so to speak. Mm-hmm. Well, that's true. I mean, I think with anything, and I'll tell you, the house that we live in here, we've been in it over 20 years. Mm-hmm. We just redid, like, you want to talk about a major remodel. We just redid the kitchen for the first time in 20-something years. I mean, we'd throw in a countertop, a new cabinets, paint, but literally just gutted it, went down, removed a wall, the whole 9 yards. And a lot of it came... I'm not going to say it's because of your episode, but these shows, I'll sit there and watch, and you'll go, and I remember sitting there with my wife and going, oh, I hate that color. Well, who would put that counter on those cabinets? And what are they thinking with that floor? Yeah. I mean, and then you turn around and you walk back into your own kitchen, and it looks like, and you're like, well, I'll accept anything because it's so different. And so finally, when you go to redo all that stuff, you kind of do get what it is you're looking for. And then I know we had the conversation with what we did was, well, let's keep it neutral, because if we're ever going to sell it, we don't want people saying that about our place. So you've been in the new house now for about 5-6 months, you said, right?
Yeah, we moved in September.
September 11th is when we signed on it.
And I just watched it in preparation for our interview. The name of the episode is... It's like
Place in the Country, or Place in the Illinois Countryside.
It's like Pet Paradise in the Country.
Pet Paradise in the Country.
I think that's what it is. Gorgeous piece of property, right?
Yeah,
we
absolutely.
think so.
Yeah. I mean, it's just in a nice spot. You're kind of back a little ways from some of the other folks that you don't have a very close neighbor, all those things. How's it going 6 months in?
Couldn't be better.
Yeah, we still, everyone's like, have you done any remodel? I'm like, no, we still have wallpaper everywhere. I haven't done it yet. But we love how much, we feel like this house is much more cozy for us. It's, I don't know, we both grew up not in your big subdivision type suburban houses. So, and our other house was more on that suburban front subdivision look, and cookie cutter.
It was big too. I mean, we always thought we wanted a big house, and you can grow into it and this and that. It was kind of just what we thought you did, and
it was big in some ways and really small in others.
Yeah, it had a lot of space but no storage, and it was very open, but it was very awkward at the same time.
So then being able to get into this house, and being able to let the dogs just go out and run has been a lifesaver. Mm-hmm. And I thought we foster dogs, so we have a lot of dogs coming in and out of our house. And the fact that Bob and Lynn Roma, who's who we bought the house from, and they already had setups because she's already had dogs, made it that much nicer for us to go in, and it's like all this stuff was done for us. Yeah. Rather than trying to figure out what do we want to do with it. So it's really going great. I don't have any complaints about being there, and it's nice being able to be close to my family as well. And anything in those regards, we're a little bit closer to his house as well.
Yeah, good. A big part of the show was, Jordan, it was a 90-minute commute for you. Is that real?
Yes.
That is real. It's a long drive. It's not quite 90 minutes, but it's about an hour and 15, hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
One way.
And then any traffic, it just multiplies that.
Traffic coming home can be a little rough, but thankfully I leave early enough in the morning where I miss most of it. But
the thing I always tell people that drive in a lot of traffic is you want to find a good podcast to listen to.
I think this would be a good one.
I think this would be a good one too, because I work in the city, and that's how I got into this. It was because you get tired of listening to the same yucks on the radio with the same 25 commercials, and the podcasting thing just kind of helps me pass the time, and that's why I did it, because I thought there's people like me that want to hear stuff like this from people like you. Big question I got: were you paid?
Actually, yes.
We're super rich out of this.
Really?
Yeah.
You get $500 for doing it.
$500 for a week.
And they give you lunch every day.
They do. I mean, everything you're with them, they're paying for. Our first time through actually was awesome. They bought They bought housewarming gifts. They bought us like flowers and stuff. They bought us
some cat toys.
Cat toys. And when we went to one of the shops. The second time probably because there's not as much to go to around the area, but they always pay for your food while you're out. Yeah. And you get a good relationship with them. And we went and had barbecue. One of the guys was staying at Shale Lake, and we went out there and had a fire pit. And
we went out there after filming one night and cooked out and had a couple beers and kind of discussed some of their stories that they had.
Yeah. You did a couple local cameo spots too. You were here at Crossroads in Crossroads, right?
Yep.
We did Crossroads. We did the antique shop in Livingston. They do what's called your B-roll, is when they're just kind of like the narrator's talking and they're showing things. They I thought that was really cool. They showed a lot of they showed the clock town, Manual Lutheran Church. So that was really cool. The gas stations. That was all we did local, I think, though. Oh, and then we also were at my parents' house.
Yeah.
Which was our house, technically.
Technically, that's played off as our house.
I remember when you were doing it because my father-in-law, who lives next to your parents, said he was out mowing grass and you had to go shut him down. Is that right?
Yes, because the noise was too much for them to be able to filter through. And we were trying to they actually didn't even use any of that scene either. That's kind of the bummer of it. They wanted some photos of us interacting with the dogs. And so we had to go over and ask him if he could just... He
had no clue what was going on. He's I don't know what they're doing over there. He didn't get it,
Yeah. So and the reason we couldn't film at our house in Collinsville is because we sold it so fast. We were not expecting to sell it that fast.
I think it was on the market a week. I think we had the first open house and we had 3 offers on that house, and we were
so
in the
when we had
process
to kind of fake it to make it.
So follow-up question on that: do you think the fact that it appeared on the show the first time helped it sell?
No.
Nah.
No?
I don't think it was. Well, actually, I think it was marketed that way, but I don't think it had any role in selling it that fast.
Yeah, no, not at all. Now, it might help other people's houses, like the ones we went and visited.
Yeah.
Theirs might go a little bit faster for it. But then you also have to remember, we say bad things about those houses. So, I don't know, I guess pick your poison. Do you want to hear the good or the bad?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it makes much of a difference. And really, the first time through, I thought, did you see the first episode?
I remember watching it at the time, but I couldn't find it on the app. I went back to find it and I didn't see it.
Oh, it's changes. I think it's for whatever reason. Sometimes the episode's different on there. But that one's a place in the burbs for the birds. And I personally like that episode way better than our second one. And I think part of it's actually because really Jordan's more comfortable the second time through. The fact that he was so nervous and said some really weird stuff the first time through. And then I said some weird stuff too. And everybody makes fun of this. I used words like janky or, what else did I say? That was if you were making it a game, I said nice a lot. And every time I said nice, people would be like, oh, heck, take a drink. Because we were so much more nervous the first time around, and really the filming at Grant's farm with the birds and the bird show, it was a very pretty episode. It's very colorful. And so the second time around, we were a little disappointed. I was kind of like, oh, I didn't think it was that good.
It was kind of bland because we were, like she said, we had a lot of fun on both of them. Don't get us wrong, but we were a lot more comfortable the second time.
A lot gets lost in the editing room, is what you're saying.
Yeah. And the first time, I don't think they were able to take as much probably out as they wanted to based on the stuff we said.
Yeah.
And it's comical, the comments we got on that first show. I don't know if you want to get into the Twitter talk or not.
Well, yeah, go ahead. I mean, that was one of the questions I had, because I remember when your last episode aired, you were like live retweeting or you were posting on Facebook what people were saying about you on Twitter.
It was very colorful.
There was probably maybe 4 pages this last time on Twitter about people's comments. The first time through, man, did they tear me apart, though. I mean, we're talking... I'll have to
what? What? I mean, was it mean?
Well, I was I was the hero in the relationship. Oh, they felt bad for me.
Yeah. First off, so that first episode, we had a cat and a bird. And then another one on the way. That was all we had for animals. And people would be like, this lady's nuts. Why does he even stay with her? She clearly cares more about her animals.
Oh, yeah.
Who has this many pets? And it's like, there are people that have way more than 3 pets out there. And mine are birds that stay in a cage. Or like, why does this lady care so much about getting a space for the birds? Like, who does that? I'm like, I don't know.
Forget the house. She just wants a room for the birds type thing.
I was kind of like, who moves and doesn't like take that into consideration what they already have?
Yeah.
One was my purple shorts. I had purple shorts on, and someone was like, "What is she wearing?" There was a couple of bad ones on there of like this guy needs to get out of this relationship so fast.
Well,
I got a lot of relationship advice.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. They were harsh.
There was nothing bad about me. I was, like I said, I came out smelling like a rose.
Well, the St. Louis Post-Dispatch did an article, and he did have a bad one in there. Someone had thought he looked like a middle-aged dad.
Oh, yeah.
But actually, that kind of also told us the show was good, because in our director, I kind of told her, I was like, I wrote responses to everybody. And then
Really?
I deleted them. I wasn't going to actually say anything.
Yeah.
But she's like, honestly, a lot of times it means that people are jealous. People are jealous that this is what you're doing or that you have this kind of lifestyle. She's like, a lot of times the more internet noise it makes, even if it's negative, means your show is good.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's true. I can't believe it. How'd it make you feel, though?
At first, it felt kind of bad.
The first one was a little tough. And the previous owners of that house went after us, actually, verbally online,
Well,
too.
their daughter did, too.
Yeah.
And they wrote some bad reviews, and they had made some comments not in the paper itself as articles, but comments on articles in the paper that we were in.
And she messaged me saying that we were horrible people for what we said about that house. Because I said the curtains were extremely ugly.
I think you said they were hideous.
Okay, I said they were hideous.
And they were.
And they were. But she commented, she's like, I can't believe you said that stuff. That was at one point, those were our memories, and that was our home. And
Someone loved that home. How dare you tear it down type thing.
And I did respond at first. I was like, well, first you have to remember, we have to say good and bad about houses. And I was like, the other thing is, you also sold this house and we bought it. So
you obviously liked it.
So we obviously liked it, and you guys obviously
Yeah.
didn't care to stay in it anymore. So, because she was moving to like a condominium type setting to be able to travel with her boyfriend, that was actually probably worse than the backlash. She threatened to like call Grant's Farm and talk bad about me. She's like, I'm going to write a review telling nobody to come see your show at Grant's Farm. And I wasn't too worried about that. I wasn't like Grant's Farm was going to allow somebody to post that on their Facebook page.
Right.
But yeah, that backlash was a little disturbing, and that's probably the worst I got of it, was somebody saying things like that. So I really made sure when we did this one to call Bob and Lynn. I'm like, look, we obviously love this house, or we would not have chosen to buy it.
Please
but
don't
remember,
take anything personal.
Don't take it personally. We have to say bad things. And I afterwards, Lynn's like, well, all the bad things you said, they were all true. So that made me feel a little bit better, because I was a little nervous about it. You don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. It's not the point of it.
Yeah. Even after all that, you signed up for round 2, though.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in the second round of Twitter comments with a new perspective on it, were a lot more fun.
And then it's comical. We went from 3 animals in that house to I had 9 at that time.
Yeah.
Nobody commented about all the animals. Not a single one.
There you go.
And the one that was comical, like, oh, this lady fosters. We can't say anything bad about her.
And then everyone's like, agreed.
Agreed. We can't say bad. She fosters. That takes a whole new different type of person.
So now you got the iron shield on you to do that.
Yeah, and I was just like, I can't get over it. We went from 1 cat, 2 birds to 3 cats, 2 birds, and we've got 2 dogs that are ours, and we foster another one right now.
I had a question there. I can't remember what it was. It's still young.
Well, the big comment too of this one is that I look like I'm the type of person that could roll somebody up in a carpet and dump them off in a river.
He said you could roll. This lady looks like she could roll a body up in a carpet, dump them off in the country, not break a sweat. That was like the best one.
And I told
her,
I was like, I'm not sure if that's a compliment or not.
I think it's a compliment.
I took it as one.
I think
Whatever.
it's a compliment. I mean, are you nervous about it, Jordan?
I've always been nervous since day one.
So that one was a unique comment that I was like, oh, I'm not really sure what that means, but thanks.
Yeah.
Question mark.
So do you get recognized a lot? I mean, you live here. Mm-hmm. You highlighted our town on our show. And so it's not like people in our town don't know you.
Right.
Because you've been here most of your life, Dawn. And Jordan, they know you're her husband. When you were in Collinsville, if you're somewhere else, do you ever get hey, do I know you from somewhere?
We have, actually. From the first episode.
Yeah, the first episode. Not so much the second one. I mean, probably because of this being in the area. But the first one, I did get people at Grant's Farm who came up after me after shows and wanted a picture.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and I was like, okay, but, it's funny. I did Grant's Farm. I got a handful of people that recognized or came because they saw the show on House Hunters, and they just thought, I got a lot of compliments about, it was such a pretty show, because it was so colorful. He got one, actually. I had a friend through distant friends, needed a dog sitter, and she, found me. She's like, hey, somebody said that, you're familiar with animals, and here's my situation. I'm in last minute bind. I need somebody to take care of my dog. We're like, yeah, bring him over. It was a little like a little Shih Tzu type dog. And at that time we had no dogs. We only had the cats and the birds. And she met us both. And later on, she's like, have I seen you somewhere? And we're like, I don't know, maybe like around. We live around Collinsville now. And she's like, no, you just look very familiar. It took her about the third time, like dogs thing. She's finally like, you guys were on House Hunters. She's like, I knew your husband from somewhere. And I was like, he's usually not as recognized as what I know. It probably has to do with being a male and female thing. That for whatever reason, but she recognized him. And did you have any others?
Well, our old mailman recognized us from that. He says, you guys just moved here, right? And I said, yeah. And he's like, were you guys on TV ever? And so we did like House Hunters, a while back. It kind of aired a couple weeks ago. And he says, oh, at the Collinsville house, he says, oh, that's where I remember watching you guys' episode. And, that was really cool. So he kind of did. And we got some carpeting discounts because a friend of a friend who knew we were on the show recognized us when we came in, and she's like, oh yeah, let us give you 2% off of this carpet.
Yeah. So the weird part, actually, the most awkward time was when people were like, I think I've seen you from somewhere. And at this point we're kind of like, well, we were on House Hunters, like, no. And we're like, oh. When they say no, that's not it, then it's like, well, then I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I get that a lot around. Not in Manoff, but with the What's That Like thing where we do it. And you guys remember Turner Hall, we do the Queen of Hearts.
Right.
I was getting like 1,100 live views every Friday night. And everywhere, I couldn't go to a restaurant and it was just like, hey, here's how you pronounce my name when you draw my name. It's like, okay, I got it. Whatever. It's just kind of unnerving when you're not really used to it.
That kind of, and I'm kind of backtracking when we were talking about being a girl and a guy on that show. This is interesting from a standpoint of when you watch the show. As a female, I had to have multiple wardrobe changes because she's like, people pay attention to the girl and what they're wearing. They don't to the guy. Jordan only had to have like 2 shirts.
That's true.
I had to have like 6 different shirts to be able to change into.
Believe it or not, you're not supposed to have logos on your clothes, though. It's somewhat difficult to find a polo without a logo on it.
Right.
Wouldn't think about it, but it is.
Yeah.
Well, even today, you've got Under Armour and Nautica.
Yeah.
It's just your everyday clothes.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's fun, too, when you know where logos are in the show. If you really can find them, like with cars, they're all taped over.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun because you can, as our director has a certain way of doing it, you can actually know who directed an episode.
Hey everyone, quick reminder, before we get back to the rest of the interview, I want to give a shout out to one of our partners, Ageless Apparel. They make a lot of great t-shirts, a lot of great products. If you've got an organization or just want to get some t-shirts made for your special event or occasion, give those folks a shout. You can find them on Facebook under Ageless Apparel. Just search Ageless Apparel. You'll find it. Austin and those folks will get back to you real quick. Quick turnaround time, quality products. Love those guys a lot, and great partners of me here on the What's That Like podcast. They make all of my t-shirts for me and do a great job. Thanks a lot, and let's get back to the interview. So you've been on twice. Would you go back for round 3?
Jordan, bro.
I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm retired.
Yeah.
I had to really kind of push his buttons to get him to do the second one. Because it is a lot of work. It's very tiring. You're up early. You have to make sure your camera ready right away. I would do it a third time.
No. You wouldn't think. You would think just walking into a house and, you're just talking about this thing and somebody's filming you and recording your sound. It's like, oh, that sounds easy. Being an actor would be easy. That's kind of our perception of it until we were on House Hunters and we realized that, no, this is 8 to 10 hours a day.
You had to take vacation time, probably?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. But, it is exhausting. And we were there all day long. We can't have the air conditioning running because it's background noise.
Right.
So you're in these hot houses, sweating like crazy, trying to make it look like you're not sweating.
And you do takes about 3 different times. You only have a crew of 3. You have a sound, audio, video, and then your director.
And they want the close shot and the wide shot.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So you walk into a room 6-8 different times. You say the same joke. If you were really screwed if you said a joke and it was a bad one, because then everyone's got to kind of chuckle the next 6 or 7 times you have to say that joke so that they can use the film, the roles from different angles.
So every angle is just a different take that we just repeated.
Yeah.
It really seems to me that it's a lot more work than people think. That's probably the thing that is probably what most people don't realize. If I was going to ask you that, that's it. It's a lot of work.
It is. And again, that's where a lot of people were like, that's why it's fake. It's like, I don't think you realize how it's not realistic to think that they're doing it live all the time as you are looking at houses. Because it's a lot of work, and that would be a lot of money from the company to have to put into paying to put all that in there. But it's mentally exhausting more than anything you're constantly having to think about what you're saying and making sure you're on track and repeating.
Try to sound intelligent and not use filler words like I'm sure I've been doing this entire interview, the ums and uhs and so's and all of that. I mean, you're trying to sound intelligent and professional. And
then, but sometimes you forget what your line is. You really do have to be like, oh, I forgot what I'm supposed to be saying again, what I said the first 3 times, because you start to kind of be numb about it. And you have to say something about every room. And that's another part that a lot of people kind of really dig at House Hunters. Were like, oh, this paint is ugly.
Oh, we'll just repaint the wall. It's like, well, if there's no furniture in the room, you got windows, floor, walls, and ceiling to comment on.
And you have to say something about it. So it's like, color of the paint.
Yeah, you can only say the floor sucks so many times.
Yeah.
That's true. So, I bet it was a lot of work. It's stuff I never would have realized until you guys really started talking about it. I just figured it probably took a day. They walked you around. I did figure they did a wardrobe change.
Yeah.
Because you do see that.
Yeah.
But, so you got a blank room, like you said, carpet, paint, a window, maybe some ugly draperies or whatever, like you mentioned before. How do you really determine then what it is, the things you're going to say?
We tried to do it we tried not to go to these houses, walk through before we started filming, because we thought, okay, we can get more of a real reaction from our standpoint.
Yeah, we tried to be as genuine as possible.
So sometimes, we would kind of talk about it, and usually try to give your real feelings. Sometimes, though, where people the house looks really nice, sometimes there's something about that house that they're not going to be showing or viewing, and you have to find something physical, but, the room itself is nice. But, for one of the houses we visited, the house smelled like smoke so bad. Heavy
smokers.
So much so that, the crew couldn't hardly handle it.
They had their smoking room, quote unquote, their smoking room, which was a garage that they turned into a laundry room. And when we filmed out there, because that was supposed to be one of the rooms for the Burrs or a small shop, we had to be out there for maybe 2 to 5 minutes at a time before we all came back in, took a breath, and went back out because the smoke smell was so bad.
But we can't talk about that on the house. So that's another thing. The house looks really nice. It's why wouldn't you choose that house? It's because I can't talk about how bad the house smells.
Because you can't see that.
And it would be the same for somebody who'd going to a house that maybe had a lot of pets in the past. You can't comment on that because that's not something a viewer can see.
Yeah.
So that's had something little to do with it as well. Same with the HVAC system. You would not comment on that because it's we're not going to sit there and show the air conditioning.
Yeah, that's a good point. You never see it unless it's.
But it's something you do consider when you're buying a house.
Yeah, they always talk about the appliances, but nothing that you're going to find in the utility room, essentially. Yeah.
Yes, because it's not aesthetically pleasing either.
Right.
So that's kind of how we kind of go about choosing what to say. And that's how come, I try to be, now that I've been on the show, I'm a little bit more lenient when I watch the show. And I'm well, they probably had to say something about that room. I'll give them a little slack.
We like to go watch it now. We don't watch House Hunters nearly as much as we used to.
No.
But when we do watch it, we can really pick out they did this, or I remember doing that, or I know they commented on this because of, we can kind of have fun picking those items out.
So you mentioned before that you're friends with the producer, and so you're on Facebook friends or whatever, and that's how you kind of got around the second time. So when you're watching it, is there one House Hunter crew, or they're doing multiple ones, and you're going, oh, that's my friend's doing that episode, we better watch that one?
I think there's 6 directors.
Yes.
6 or 7 directors, and they travel around the country, and then their audio and camera guys are contracted employees.
Okay.
So most of they're 1099 guys. Most of the time, they're people that they know that they've worked with. If they're in, if they're in the Mount Olive area, they've got a crew that they typically rely on. Or if they're in Dallas, they've got a crew.
So our first time, usually the crew for this area actually comes out of Ohio. But those guys were busy. I think they might have been doing a different episode. House Hunters, I guess, really amped up all of a sudden their new episodes. So they were trying to go back to back to back. So they had all their contracted people very busy. And so they've been picking up more guys. Our guys do work together, and they came out of Texas.
Coming to Austin, I think.
Gotcha.
And so they are commonly working together. Now, the director can put in recommendations of like what crew she may want. But she doesn't always work with the same crew all the time.
Gotcha. You appeared on the show. Is there a group of you that like get together online, have a discussion group, talk about it?
There's probably a place to do that, but
we're not on it.
You're not in the club?
No, I don't know if I want to be in the club.
There's no House Hunters Club.
So
we weren't invited anyway.
Yeah, we weren't invited into it. If so.
You finished 2 episodes. Dawn, you said you'd do it a third. Jordan, you say you're done.
Correct.
I could totally get that. From a standpoint of people might want to go back and watch these. Like I said, you know, maybe they could find it in the app. What are the names of the episodes again?
The first one is A Place in the Burbs for the Birds. And I think it's season 99.
I think it's 99.
Season 99, 101. I've seen it actually 2 different places. I think it's wrong somewhere.
But when did it air? Maybe that'll help too.
It was March of 2015.
March of 2015. And this last one was called Pet Paradise in the Country.
In the country,
Yeah.
And that
Illinois
aired,
countryside, or
and
something.
that aired in
Just this past spring. So I think also March. Because we actually filmed... May. We filmed actually both of them were around the same time. We both filmed them in September. And
So that's a good question I didn't ask. You filmed in September. It aired probably 6-7 months later.
Yeah, it really takes that long a time for them to do all of the editing.
Yeah.
You know, to piece it all back together. Because I think we told you earlier, you're doing 5 days of talking, but they crunch it down to about 8 minutes.
22-minute episode, and as you said, Jordan, 8 or 9 minutes of actual talking on.
That's what they told us, yeah.
So you're doing about 40 hours worth of talking. But that's about what it all breaks down to that. And so even when you're nervous, that's what the director keeps telling you. She's like, they're probably not going to use it anyways.
Yeah. Big part of the show, Dawn, was you and all the pets. That's a big part of what you really do from a passion standpoint as well. You've got some classes that you do in the area. Would you like to talk about those?
Yeah, so I do do dog basic obedience classes where we teach sit, lie down, come, kind of just how a dog should behave. And then I also, on the side, if somebody's got a dog that's got some other behavioral issues, I do private sessions as well with them. And I really enjoy doing that. It allows me to kind of set my own schedule, which is nice. And I've got a lot of success from it. I have a lot of people that really appreciate it because there isn't really anybody in the area without having to drive a little bit.
Yeah. How do people find you if they'd want to do that?
Right now it's really I'm just kind of been going word of mouth. People can message me on Facebook if they have, something they want help with. And that's how I've gone about it. We've kind of talked about it in the future. I might send out set up a private page, a website, and all that stuff. We're kind of just testing the waters right now, doing it on my own.
Well, and you're further in your training too, and kind of going into more specific routes and branching out a little bit.
So, and I'm a certified trainer, and I'm actually in classes right now to work on becoming a consultant, a behavior consultant.
Gotcha. All right. Awesome. Well, it's a pleasure to have you folks on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
One of the things that I always do it at the end, kind of end it with some fun. And I ask you guys some questions.
Okay.
It's the WTL 5. And here's the 5. So question number 1. We'll start with you, Jordan.
All right.
What's the best Christmas gift you ever got?
The best Christmas gift I ever got? I don't know, probably some cooking utensils or something. That's probably it.
Cooking utensils.
Probably. I love to cook.
Yeah?
I'm not terrible at it either.
Dawn, you think that's just hilarious.
You probably know an actual specific gift that I've gotten that I would love.
Jordan likes getting tools. He is that traditional, wow, this is a boring gift, but he loves it.
You get a handsaw, and Dawn's like, I really didn't want to buy this. And I'm like, this is great.
Yeah.
You get a nice cordless drill, you're thinking that's the best thing.
Yeah.
So when it came to getting that, like his needing a shop, I was all for having a shop for him.
I think I got excited over a shop vac one time.
Yeah.
I got that for Christmas. I got 2 of them for Christmas.
That, and you were pretty excited to get your spiralizer as well.
Yeah, see, cooking utensils.
There you go. Dawn, what was your favorite Christmas gift ever?
I got my golden retriever Dasher, who has passed away now. I got him for Christmas one year, and that was pretty awesome.
I remember Dasher. Yes.
Yeah, Dasher was a big part in a lot of people's lives. A lot of people knew him.
Yes.
So, yep, he was my best Christmas gift.
Number 2, Dawn, recommend a book. What's a book someone should be reading? It's summertime, you're on vacation, you got some time. What's a good book to read?
Well, I'm a big Harry Potter fan.
Okay.
I like to reread my Harry Potter books. I do a lot of, I'm all in the fiction, fantasy, romance, any of that I really like.
Do you like a physical book, or you on the Kindle or
Well, and all of the thing, I'm on a Kindle, and one thing I do like, because I do work with children a lot when I was at the Science Center, I tend to read like their age. I would, read the series, like the Percy Jackson series, which is all about, Greek gods, about this kid living in a modern world about it. I will read those books a lot, and his sister loves to read, and it allows me to relate to them and, have fun with them and be able to talk to them.
You got a recommendation, Jordan?
Not fantasy books.
Yeah, he's not. He's totally opposite.
I like right now I'm reading The Intelligent Investor by Benjamin Graham. It's a pretty dense book. I don't recommend it for anybody because I'm having a hard time getting through it. But like
how about one you would recommend?
Autobiographies. I read Warren Buffett's autobiography, Snowball. Okay. That was a really good one.
Yeah.
It's a long read, but it was really interesting.
Good. All right. Question number 3. We'll go back to you, Jordan. What's the most embarrassing app/game you have on your phone?
I have a Sims game on my iPad.
SimCity.
SimCity?
Yeah. I play it like once a day before I go to bed.
Is that SimCity 2000 or something?
I don't know. It's like a build it thing.
I know which one you're talking about. I actually downloaded that for a while.
Oh, yeah, good. I feel better about it now.
Don't worry about it. Dawn?
I had the Pokemon Go app for a long time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And again, it was being at the Science Center really what put me into it. I don't play it anymore. But my coworkers and I had challenges with it, so probably Pokemon Go.
That's been a popular answer on this show. A number of people have mentioned that in the past. Is it still a big thing?
It is, but I think what I enjoyed about it is, Pokemon came out when I was a kid, but now it's in now that I was out of it, as I got older, they're in generations that I don't even know anything about, so it's not interesting for me anymore. It was more of a throwback that made it, I think, really
Was
fun.
it the Pokemon part that you liked, or the thing that you had to kind of like go out in the world and find stuff?
Both. It was I'm like back in my childhood, because I watched Pokemon as a kid, and I can remember, with certain friends, they had the decks. I never collected the cards, but I knew all about it. I think that was what it was like. Oh, that was kind of fun about it, to reminisce, and then them being able to walk around. But actually what started to turn me off a little bit more, and I told him this, is that I would go, like some of my coworkers, we'd go down to Busch Stadium to get stuff, and we were like the youngest ones there, and I'm coming up to 30 now, and that was like, wow, I thought this was like my age and maybe younger for those kids, but no.
No, it was generational. Yeah.
It was the majority of people that when you'd go and do these battles and stuff, you're talking, 50, 60-year-old guys that would go off their lunch break to go get it done. And I was like, wow, this really is huge.
I downloaded it. I had it. The thing about like living where we're at here at the studio, the cemetery next to us does. So anyone that was in town was on our street here, my street here, all the time.
Yeah.
They were going back and forth because there was a gym.
Yes, there's 2 gyms over there. Yeah, there was. I don't know if there still is.
That's what like I said, I don't have it anymore. I thought it was a neat little thing, not because it was the Pokemon, but I thought it was going to be the first generation of thing that somebody else would come up with something that would be really cool, and it really hasn't happened yet.
No, They talked about actually doing a Harry Potter one, because I got really excited about that. But I thought it was cool that they mixed. It's augmented reality if you really want to put it on, but it's kind of cool that they mix that with real things in the world to go see, the statues and stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't know, you can click on one. There's a lot of them had little descriptions about why that's on there.
The first month it was out, I had it on my phone, and I had gone to Washington, D.C., and it was, you want to talk about your phone blowing up. Every corner is a monument to something.
Yes.
And there was just thousands of them there. And I captured some special one in front of the White House. That was my pick. I got that one. Yeah. That felt real special.
My most embarrassing moment on the app was probably, must have been midnight. He was sleeping, and I got out of bed. He's like, "Where are you going?" I'm like, "There's a Pokemon nearby." And I think I walked around the block at midnight to get a Pokemon, because I was so addicted to it at the time.
We'd go to ice cream, and there was a gym next to the ice cream place. And
Bobby's.
So, we'd sit there and eat ice cream, and she's battling some 10-year-old kid on the bench trying to get into this gym. And she can tell, she could sit there and watch his phone. She's like, "I'm battling that kid over there." And I said, "Well, I'm enjoying this ice cream, He
was really proud of me during those moments of my life.
There you go. It's harmless fun.
Oh,
it's harmless fun. When you're driving down the road in your car and a song comes on the radio, or maybe it's on your phone or whatever else, what's the most embarrassing song that you would want people to know every word to?
Probably some Taylor Swift song.
Jordan's probably Taylor Swift, yeah.
Yeah.
Mine is probably from a musical, whether it be The Lion King or Wicked. I have Broadway music on my CDs.
Yeah, that's not that embarrassing anymore.
So that would be probably mine. But
My
actually, a lot
daughter,
of times,
same thing. We took her to see Wicked for her 18th birthday.
yes, I
on
remember.
Broadway.
I've talked to your daughter about a lot of the Broadway shows.
Yeah.
That's where we got it. He proposed to me outside Wicked, and when we were in New York.
Oh, nice.
So it had a tie, and I like to sing those a lot.
I'm a real romantic.
You are.
Yeah, that's probably. But actually, a lot of times in the car, I don't actually listen to music because it's the one time where I can like be in silence.
Yeah.
You don't listen to anything, and I typically listen to the news.
Yeah. And the What's That Like podcast.
And the ones
and
that,
what's it like?
of course.
Last question. You've been on TV. You've been on a TV show, but you were yourselves on House Hunters, a reality show.
Mm-hmm.
What TV show would Jordan Kettler be a character on? Now, you're not replacing a character, mind you. Jordan Kettler is the character. What TV show would that be?
I know this one.
Do you?
Yes, but you pick out your answer first.
If I had a desire, I would really hope that I could be portrayed as like on Home Improvement or something.
I was gonna
Yeah?
say Last Man Standing.
There
Well,
you go.
so Tim Allen. Okay, I guess Tim Allen would be my character then.
Well,
No,
you can't be Tim
no, you
Allen.
wouldn't be-
But I'm saying
You'd
he
be-
would be me.
No,
What?
you would be on that show as like a person, like a random different person. Like that's what show you were like.
Well, I guess I interact with Tim Allen really well. So what do you think
okay.
he's on? I guess that would work.
You'd be like one of the guys that he hangs out with at the hardware store.
Yeah, maybe that would be it.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what I think you would be. And then trying to help Tim Allen and maybe not be so like, strict with some of his views,
Yeah.
but just for the fun.
Now,
of the
what
show.
about you, Dawn? You get the last one. You get the last say.
I would for sure be in one of the comic. I'd be a superhero in one of the TV shows.
No.
What did you think?
You ever remember that cartoon Wild Thornberries?
Oh yeah, that's true.
That's what I would pick.
Yeah,
Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
It's this little girl and her parents. I guess they're on. I
they
don't know.
traveled the world.
They're in like Africa and stuff all the time, dealing with animals and the wild. And,
yeah, and she could talk to animals.
Yeah, Dawn would be a character on that, I would say.
That's a cartoon, but if I had to guess a real show, like I love watching the DC comics, like Arrow, Flash.
Yeah?
I love those shows. So
You would be a superhero?
I don't know if I'd be a superhero or just like probably one of the people that are like in the labs all the time helping the superhero.
You know, that's a common answer. Like somebody always wants to be. My last guest, he wanted to be one of the people in the in CTU on 24.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he didn't want to be Jack Bauer.
Yeah.
But he wanted to be hanging out with Chloe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think I would be something like that too.
All right. Well, great episode. Thanks for coming over today. I really appreciate it. Anything else you'd like to talk about before we let you go?
No, thank you very much for having
Yeah,
us.
this has been great. This has been fun.
Jordan, Dawn, want to thank you for coming over, telling your story, letting everyone know what it's like to be on a reality TV show. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks,
thank you.
John.
Thank you. All right. Thanks, Jordan and Dawn. Boy, they were fun. That was a fun interview. A lot of things I just didn't know in regard to how long that actually took. I just kind of figured, they followed them around for a day or two and they had all this stuff set up, but it seems like there's a lot of pre-planning, a lot of pre-scheduling, a lot of scheduling that they've got to really commit to make this happen, all for the exciting fee of $500. So, not a lot of money when you're talking about the concept of buying a house. That's it's kind of a drop in the bucket, but they thank God they do it because it's one of the most popular shows on TV, and it got to highlight some of the areas right around here in Central Illinois and some people here from Central Illinois, and that's really what this show is all about. So, all right, you heard Dawn say you can find the episodes that they were on the app, on the HGTV app. Just search for the show House Hunters. I know it's available on Fire Stick, Apple, Roku, iPad, iPhone, Android, whatever. Just get the HGTV app. It's what I do. And then you log in with your local TV provider or DirecTV or whoever else you have an account with. And then you get access to all the shows. It's a really good way to watch and catch up on a lot of these old episodes. I think the episode names were A House in the Burbs for the Birds. And the second one was Pet Paradise on the Prairie. So look for those if you want to catch up with Jordan, Dawn, everything they do. And of course, if you've got some animals that you need trained, like Dawn was talking about, you can get a hold of her on Facebook. That's Dawn Kernich Kettler, Kettler. And you'll find Dawn if you want to catch up on some of those things or take advantage of some of the services she has. So thanks to them. Great guests. Really appreciate them coming on. Let me go to a different take. Got another friend that was on a reality TV show a few years back, 5 or 6 years back, and I want to get his perspective because I know it's also another popular show. So I want to go to my friend Greg Shively. Let's dial him up. Greg was always wanting to get on the show with his bride, say yes to the dress. So let's talk.
Hey, we're out of time.
What? We're out of time?
Time to shut it down.
Again.
Come on, Bob. Everybody wants to know about Say Yes to the Dress. So, Greg, sorry, man. We'll get you on next time. You were a great guest last week. I'm sure we'll get you on again as soon as this jerk Bob isn't around any longer. So we can get you on. So thanks a lot for that. With that being said, sorry we're out of time. I'll see you next time on the What's That Like podcast. Peace out. What's That Like is available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Search for What's That Like. Subscribe today and never miss an episode. Streaming is available at SoundCloud.com and on the SoundCloud app. Follow What's That Like at Facebook.com/What's That Like podcast and on Twitter at What's That Like Pod. All opinions of the guests of the What's That Like podcast are their own, not necessarily the views of the host or the podcast producers. We hope you enjoy this podcast serving Central Illinois and beyond. Peace out!